Hello and welcome everyone. This is Mike. I'm the founder and CEO of SweetDash. This video is just one in a series of many videos that will be highlighting both new and current features. Be sure that you're subscribed on YouTube and following us on all social media to get the latest videos and updates about new and existing features. Alright, so let's get started. Okay, so the subject of today's chat is going to be project generators and task templates. Okay, so thanks, Tim. So in many project systems, you'll see project templates. Okay, well, that's basically all you see, and that's good. That's usually taking a project that exists and making it something that you can copy or duplicate, for really simply duplicate, and put it into some kind of make a starting point for projects as you go forward. And that's good. That's good. That's better than starting from scratch every time. You guys can see my screen. You're looking at a list of projects in various stages. But you also see the Generators tab here, and you see Templates tab. And if you're just getting started with SweetDash, this may be confusing to you until you understand the dynamics, and that's what we'll try to cover today. So let's go to the trusty whiteboard here, and let's talk about concepts. We'll need to start with that. All right, first we'll start with manual project creation. Okay, so this is when you are in your platform as an admin, and you say, okay, I'm going to start a project. You click the Add Project form. You give that project a name. You manually set things like start date, due date, add some project info, you assign a client and some secondary clients if needed. You assign some of your team to the project, and then you set a project value and maybe set some automations. And then the result of this is you end up with a new project, great, in the projects list that we just looked at. But this project will have no tasks. Your task won't be organized into phases, and phases are just a way to collect tasks into different time frames of a project. So like the first month of a project you might call the data collection phase, and then the tasks that are inside the data collection phase, and then the second month might be the content generation phase, and then you have a set of tasks that fit inside that little set of bookends. And that's what phases are in our world. So you have phases and tasks. So it'll be empty. You'll have to start building those from scratch. And really, you're just kind of starting from scratch. And that has its place in the world. But in our world, where we're trying to streamline and automate your business, we need some more sophistication than that. So you don't want to have to do that from the beginning every time. So here, we're in a list of projects. These are the projects. And if you click Add Project, you'll get this form where you do just exactly what I just showed you. A title, start date, end date, and then all this has to be filled in, and all this has to be done. Okay? Now, you'll notice that here you can set and configure a task template. You don't have to. So if I don't set a task template and I complete all these fields and I click Save or Create, I'll get this project that I saw before. This is my project that's empty. Or I have some additional options here in SweetDash that you'll see. Now here's the next step in the logic, and I'm going to try to lead you through build this logic together so that it will hopefully fall into place for you and your light bulbs will come on. Okay, so this is manual creation versus using a task template. Now, if we go back, well, let's look at this first, then we'll go back. Manually creating a project. Still, we're manually creating, just like we're doing here. I'm manually creating in this form, but I have the option of using a task template. So what does that mean? Without a task template, we just talked about that process. No tasks, no phases added. Everything is empty. I still have to do all the task phases and assignments of tasks to end up with a project that's created that includes tasks, right? That has tasks built and developed and assigned. If I use a task template, though, because a task template, what it is essentially a package. Imagine like a briefcase is a decent word to use. A box, a bucket that has all these tasks pre-built inside of them, as pre-built as they can be, with that, and then we add, and you'll see in a minute, dynamically the elements that are needed in an automation. So a task template is a container that already contains tasks and phases. Those tasks and phases are already assigned either in a generic way or in a direct way, which you'll see soon. So if I manually create a project from that form and I already have a task template built and I specify that template, the project will be created and the tasks will be zipped out or executed or written immediately into that project, so that I end up with a project plus tasks without this still to do building every time. Okay, so now we're one step closer to the dream world of everything's automated, everything's systematized, because we put a little work in and we created our task template. So to reinforce, if I create this manual project creation and I select a task template from whatever it is, and you don't have to set the based on date. We'll talk about this later. The based on date is typically today, meaning the creation of the project. And this will, again, become clear later. Then I end up with project plus tasks. Okay, so this route here is one step better than full manual creation. All right, let's look a little closer. And I want to just really be clear about what a task template is, okay? So a task template is something that I build in advance that creates all the tasks, gives me some assignments. I can group those tasks into phases, as I see here. Remember we said the getting the assets from our clients, the content creation, and then delivery maybe. Each one has a group of tasks that's appropriate for that phase, and I can assign each one of those tasks to individuals, or these generic circles stand for project leader and client. Okay, so I can actually have these dynamic identities like project leader or client, which then gets assigned later, and then the task gets assigned to those people. Or if I don't assign any of these tasks directly to someone in my team, they'll all, or to the client, it'll all get assigned to the client, to the project leader, and then the project leader is responsible after the project's created to delegate those tasks as they normally would, as a project leader would be have the responsibility of doing. Okay, so this is this briefcase, right, that we talked about of these pre-configured tasks. So let's look at what that looks like in the real world. Here we're in the templates phase. Here's a list of templates. And you'll see some of them this one has 2 phases and 4 tasks. Let's look inside that one. So here we are inside a template, and we have these tasks. They're assigned to, this one's assigned to the project leader, right? But who is that? Well, we don't know yet, because this is going to be used in an automation or called in a manual project creation, in which I'm required to set the project leader. So when I set the project leader, this will be replaced on the fly with that person, right? But I can also, as I'm editing this, I can set that assigned to, I can assign it directly. And in the case that the direct assignment, that person is not actually added to the project, which we'll look at in a second, then the default, it will fall back to the project leader. So we have these dynamic assignments, these identities that help us make sure that all the tasks will always be assigned to someone. If it's not directly assigned, or if we create this template and then maybe we set a staff member inactive, or they leave the company and we forget to go fix the template, and then the template gets called and that person is no longer around, it'll just fall back to the project leader, in which case that project leader is responsible for delegating that task, okay, or doing it. You can also assign to the client. here, another dynamic assignment. We don't know who the client is yet, but in the automation, we will. As we move through the automation, we'll know who the client is. Or in the case of manual creation, in this sense, we will set the client here, call the project template here, and then this this client assignment will be replaced with the client that we specify in the project. Okay. This is somewhere that we'll actually be extending in the future, these identities, allowing you to create custom identities that can be used. That's very, very powerful, but let's continue. I don't want to get too bogged down in that. But you'll see here we can create the title, the task title, the estimated time, a description, assignments, priorities, all the things that you would normally find in a task creating, like, right now kind of task. You're pre-creating here in a way that is something you can configure in advance. But here's an element that needs to be explained. Okay, so you'll see that this is called relative due date. What does this mean? Relative due date means that since we're creating this task in a bubble, in a briefcase ahead of time, and we plan to use it maybe tomorrow, maybe a month from now, maybe 6 months from now, we might call this same template. We have no idea what the due date is, right? We can't set the due date for June 15th, because what if we use this template on July 1st, right? So there's no chance that we could have any world where this due date is set as a static or specific date. So what we do in an automation sense is we tell you it's a relative due date, and what this means, this is relative to what we call the based on date, which is most of the time in most business applications the day that the project is created. Okay, so if the project gets created on June 1st, and we have this set for 14 days as a relative due date, the due date for this task will be set as June 15th. All right, just math. So it's the based on date plus the relative due date relative to the based on date. And so that means no matter when we use this template, no matter when we apply it, the relative due date will be added to the based on date, which is typically the creation date. Now you did see, not to confuse, but you did see that we can actually change the based on date. So for example, if I'm creating this project and I want to get it in the system, I know in my head that I have a project template that I'm going to call that has these specific based on dates that will create due dates according to some schedule that me and my team we've agreed on. But we're not quite ready to start this project, right? I know as the manager it's going to be 2 weeks before we get to this, but I want to get it in the system. I want to get everything created. So I might say, you know what? I'm going to move this based on date up a couple weeks here. And now when I create this project templates can still be used as it sits, right? I don't have to go in the project template and change 100 different relative due dates. I can change just the based on date. And suddenly, now this fits my schedule, right? Everything gets bumped out 2 weeks, and boom, the due dates get bumped out 2 weeks instead of today. Whereas if I would have set this for, today, then I would end up, everything would be 2 weeks forward. But since I bump it out 2 weeks, everything gets zipped out 2 weeks later, okay? So I can have a little control of how my templates get applied without having to go to the templates and modify them or create multiple different versions. So this is a really nice swing point that you can work with, a variable that you can work with to make nice changes across the board as you go. So that's relative due date, and you can set this for weeks even. Okay, so if your projects last a very long time, you can do that. So in this task template, which I'm sitting in now, all these elements are available to you. Even elements like subtasks. Here you can set subtasks. You can set automations. Understand that you can pre-configure the automations for this task that will be executed. I'm going to say this the right way. It sounds confusing. I can pre-configure the automations of this not yet created task so that after it's created and then completed, those automations will be executed. Yeah. So really, think about like when you're trying to build a machine that can replicate itself over and over again, and then those actions, the automations associated with that replication, can happen over and over again in a predictable way. So now that's what you're doing here. You're creating everything in advance, even the followers, even the automations. This is all in advance, all configured on the task level or the phase level, right? So we even have automations that can be triggered based on the phase level, right? So when in a phase is completed, marked complete or completed by automation, which means autocomplete phase when all tasks have been marked complete. So if you have a team working, several freelancers in a team, each one is marking their task complete individually, you don't have to have someone keeping an eye on it all the time saying, okay, now they're all complete. Now I'm going to mark the phase complete. Now I'm going to move. You don't have someone managing and moving and changing and moving the project to the next phase. You have the platform is watching. So when all the tasks get marked complete, we're going to automatically complete the phase, which then will fire the automations associated with that phase because that's the completion event. And we can also automatically change the project status. And these statuses are customizable. So all of this can be built ahead of time. All the tasks, all the assignments, all the due dates, all the phases, all the timing, all the automations can be built, pre-configured, and called into action when it fits your business model. Okay, Jamie has a question. Jamie says, do you think that at some point the relative due date could have an option of to be determined? That's a good question, Jamie. I believe, and I might be wrong here, and I have been wrong before, but I believe that if you leave the relative due date as blank, it may work that way. But that's a good question. I'm gonna make a little note about that when I can, and we'll look at that. I understand what you mean. You may not want to have a due date when it's zipped out in the automation. Okay. Yep. Good question. All right. So let's move on. Let's move back to the pretty pictures, and maybe they'll help us. Okay. So here's our briefcase of pre-configured tasks, assignments, phases, and this is what we call a task template. All right. Now, let's get to the fun part. Down here. Okay. So let's look again, and we'll just be really clear about this, about what manual project creation looks like. When add project form, in that project form, we're specifying what I call the project metadata, right? That's like start and due date, project info, the wiki, not wiki, but like a wiki where you have info for your client side and info for your staff. We're going to specify the clients, the assignees to the project. In our world, when you are creating a project, here's the assignees to the project. Only these people will see this project in the project list, okay? So if you have staff members that are not assigned to this particular project, they won't even know it exists, right? And that gives you a lot of privacy and a lot of insular capabilities so that you can have projects that are being worked on by a team over here, and this person over here or this freelancer over here has no idea about that project. They don't know that they're not assigned to it. So this gives you the ability to have many projects going all at the same time, and only the appropriate people are seeing it. So that's why we have assignment to project, and that's very specific here. Only these people that I'm going to assign here are going to be able to see the project. And then, of course, as that follows, then only those people will be able to be assigned to the project, or I'm sorry, to tasks inside that project when that happens. Okay, so here we are. So you have the assignees to the project, you have a project value, and have automations. These are things that happen when the project is completed or when it's started. So this is a manual project creation. We have a project form. Here's the data or the items that are created inside the project, and then we get a new project with no phases, no tasks, starting from scratch. We've seen this before. But now let's move to the automation formula. Okay. So we've looked at task templates, right? And we wondered. We said, okay, well, what is this? What is this? We looked at templates. Well, what is a generator then? So how does generator fit into this equation? Here's the answer. Task template is here. Project generator is here. Together, they will create a project that contains tasks and phases. But this is your general formula. Project generator plus task template equals project task in an automation. Okay? How this works is that the project generator provides you with the project meta in an automation. Now remember that so we're inside an automation. The project generator takes care of defining the meta, the due date, the info, the clients, the assignees to the project value, etc. And the template takes care of defining the tasks, the phases, the task assignees, the task due dates, etc. Okay? And together they build a project on the fly, and they give you like kind of an ultimate flexibility. So here's a good example. This is your generator. I like to refer to them like factories. Okay? So imagine this is a factory that's designed to, I don't know, build Nissan or Toyota Camrys. Okay? So yeah, when a factory gets built to build Toyota Camrys, it's tooled out, it's configured in exactly that way. Okay, and so a generator is like a factory. It's a generator of a project that's tooled out, that's configured to build a project according to these specifications: project name, title, due dates. How is this all working? Let's go and look and see an example. Okay, so now we're in Create Project Generator. Here's a list of project generators, okay? And you see that the project name here, it actually has dynamic elements in it. Why? Because we want to use this generator in an automation over and over and over for 50 different people, as an example. If I use the same title for 50 different projects, then my projects list is going to be filled with titles that are exactly the same. But what I want is something that has a similar title that tells me what am I looking at here, and then the client's name, or maybe the year, or maybe something like that. Some combination of these, and you have options here. Here's a whole list of placeholders that you can use to help you generate dynamic names that are different in a way that your system will understand, and you can develop a system around. Okay, so this name, let's be clear, is the name that you are going to refer to this generator, all right? And in this list, this is this name, okay? I might say, oh, this is my standard book cover design generator. That's the name that I, as an admin, want to refer to this as. This is the name that's going to this is the dynamic name that's going to be used to generate the project name when that's created. And then understand that when this is just a list of the generators, but when each project that gets created by these generators ends up in my projects list. Okay, and this is an actual project that was generated by a generator. It can be that the language can get, if you dropped in by parachute right in the middle of this, it would sound really, really awkward, but this is exactly what it is. Okay, so we have these generators. We're creating a generator. We set the name that we refer to it as. Here we set the dynamic name that will be, the placeholders be replaced as this is being used in an automation. Here's our estimated completion date relative. Yes. Why? Because we want to use this in January and June and October. So we have no idea. So we set a relative. This project information, right? This is information that we want to standardize in this generator, but also make dynamic. And here's a good example. Here's a generator that's built already and used. You'll see that, for example, this is a book cover design generator. So if I had a company that was designing book covers, the clients might be the authors of that book. And so in this case, this generator is going to create this project information on the fly using data placeholders that you can access right here. Okay? And this data will be, all this will be filled in on the project level, and then this will be displayed in the project, but of course this data will be filled in on that individual project. So even at this level, I can build a standardized way of relaying information to the client or into my staff. I could build an entire page here of information that pulls from data placeholders that were filled in by the clients. Book genre, book title, author name, series title. All these can be, they're from a form. They're custom fields that could be completed in a form by the client and then regurgitated here in the project information that's visible to my staff. So in the project, they'll have all the data that they need to complete the project, however that works in your world. And then to the client, we can just say, hey, we have this standardized information that we always show to them. So this is automated and standardized. And then to this type of project for book cover design, I might know exactly, okay, here's my team. These are the people who always do this kind of project. And here's my task template. Okay, so I build a task template that's exactly perfect for this exact project. So now I have all the project metadata that I'm building here, the titles, the information, the project due date, the even scheduling options. We'll get to that in a bit. And then I call my task template, and here this is where I can shift my relative based on date. My based on date based on the example I used before was that I pushed it down the road 2 weeks. Maybe in this world, maybe I create this whole system and I create my task template with 100 tasks that have those relative due dates, and we start working in that way. I realize, oh, you know what? I made those relative due dates. They're too early. They're like a week or two too fast. I was overambitious, Well, instead of going back to the task template and shifting 100 different relative due dates by 2 weeks, I could just come to the generator and shift it by 14 days. And now suddenly I affected every task in that task template by 14 days. And then maybe a week later I say, you know what? That's too much. I shifted it too much. Let's come back and shift this to 7 days. And so I'm affecting all the projects that get generated by this generator in the future when I change this relative based on date. But you don't have to put anything here. You can just leave it empty. And then that, of course, will make the based on date the moment, the day, the date that this generator generates a project. That project will have a based on date of, if it was today, it would be November 16th. And then all the tasks, the relative due dates and the tasks for that project or in this template would be executed based on that date. All right, and then some things like more metadata, business sectors, estimated value, these things, automations here. See, these are automations that you're setting on a generator level, as I was discussing before. The ability to pre-configure what will happen when this project is generated. All right, so when you call this project generator in a generator, in an automation, then you can set actions that will be executed right away on the generation of the project. And you can pre-configure the automations that will happen when this project gets marked complete, either manually or by an automation. And here's the same thing as we saw in phases. You can set this project to automatically change status to complete when all tasks have been marked complete. Right? So again, if you have a whole team out there working individually in different time zones in different countries, you don't need someone to be scanning this project constantly to see if everyone is completed and everyone's done. You just check this box, and then we watch it for you. And when they all hit their complete button on their tasks, then this thing goes, it gets marked complete. This set of automations gets fired, and you're on to the next thing. Then this automation might include an invoice. It might include some emails that go out. It might include changing a circle. Who knows? Anything. Changing their email audience, their marketing audience. But you have this ultimate control over configuring these in advance using these generators. Okay, let me go back to the diagram here and just try to hammer this home, okay? So we just looked at a project generator. What did we set there? We went through and we set the project metadata. We set the start and due date, but by relative days, right? We use relative because, again, we want to use this on March 1st, December 1st, October 1st, doesn't matter. We set the project info and wiki. We use placeholders here, right? But not actual data, placeholders, because we want to run 50 people through this automation and get a different customized result in that information each time. The project value is right now is static. It's always the same for every project that gets built out of this generator. And the automations will be the same for every project that gets built out of this generator. One of the settings, one of the configurations in the generator is, okay, yes, thank you for all this information, but I also would like to know if you would like to use a task template. Here's my task template. I tell it yes to use task template X, Y, or Z, whatever. The task template is going to bring to the party the tasks with due dates and phases with dates, relative dates, remember. And the assignees, which can be direct, as we said, or can be these dynamic identities like project leader or client. Client will always be dynamic if you want to assign a client. You can't directly assign a client. You'll always choose it as an identity. And again, if you directly assign someone in a task template, but they were not assigned in the project, then of course they cannot be involved because they can't A, see the project, and B, can't be assigned. So we'll use a fallback to the project leader, and then the project leader can delegate that task. And so the end result is we get the project, all the meta, we get the tasks from the task template, and they all come together in your list of projects, immediately generated, everything there, everything assigned, everything ready to go, all the automations kicked off, and then this can all happen from A to Z in an automation as a result of, say, a kickoff form or an update form or anywhere that you can call the project generator, which is just a very small part of our automations possibilities. Oh, actually, we won't find it here because you can't call a project generator in a project generator because that would give you the capability of building an infinite loop. So there are some limitations to protect you from yourself. So here, from any, I just go here to get quickly to the automations. But yeah, anywhere you can call this generator, apply project generator. So you're simply choosing the name of the generator. It feels really innocent here, right? But what you're actually doing is calling into action this entire mechanism, which is, okay, I'm going to build a project according to these specifications. And if you specified a task template, I'm going to create all those tasks and phases inside that project, and everything's going to happen, and you're going to end up with a complete project, complete with tasks, complete with assignments, complete with everything. Jamie, good question. Jamie says, once the project generator has been completed, it will then automatically pop up under projects list. In a way, yes, but your second question will help me clarify with your first question to be clear. It will no longer be listed under the project generator list. They're two different things, Jamie, okay? So the project generator never ceases to be a project generator, okay? I think that's the clearest way to say it. It always will be a project generator. What it does is just like the Toyota Camry factory. That's good. This is good. So we have our Toyota Camry factory. When it creates a Toyota Camry, that car drives away. The factory still stays. Okay? And it can push out, it can create 500 cars, and they all drive away and become independent entities, cars, or projects. The generator stays. The generator is a configuration vehicle. a configuration mechanism, a building mechanism. Okay, so it stays. Yep, it'll always be here, and it'll always be available. It doesn't like convert itself and then go away. It's like a factory. It just sits there and it's just waiting for you to press the button. One more Toyota Camry, please. One more Toyota Camry, please. Over and over, and that button gets pushed by either called an automation, or you can call it directly from a contact dashboard, a CRM contact dashboard. But these will always stay for as long, unless you delete them, unless you change them. Yeah. Is that clear? Does that help, Jamie? I hope so. Okay. Another question. If the update form is staff submitted, how can the project generator be triggered and assigned to that staff member? It won't matter that the staff form is submitted by a staff member, because in an update form, when you do a staff submit, you select the client, okay, and then that's really the only piece of data. When you say assign to that staff member, the only way that would happen is if inside the project generator they were directly assigned. So they would have to be, so let me be a little more clear. So Stan here, if he was the person who staff submitted the update form, that would just be a coincidence that he was assigned to the project, because he's assigned to the project because he's here, assigned in the project generator, right? That leads me to another thing to cover, and I wanted to mention here, is that in a lot of cases, you'll have let's just say you have 3 different teams who work on similar projects, okay? What you can do here is you can create unique project generators and templates. First, you're going to build one, and you're going to get it just right. Then you can duplicate that one and change the assignments only. Then duplicate that one and change the assignments only. So what I mean is, here in the generator, you can have, let's call it payroll team A. Okay, and then you'll have a payroll team B, payroll team C. All the metadata for it will all be the same. The assignments can be different. So in your case, if you need, okay, this I need to assign to Stan, or I need to assign to this other person, you can assign differently here. And then you can even choose different task templates. So that's part of the power of this construction, is you can customize how you assign this part, how you build and choose that, and then customize when you want to choose different variations of the task template to match the scenario that you find yourself in business. So you can build unlimited numbers of project generators and task templates, and you can duplicate them all. So, creating an alternate variant of one is really pretty simple. Once you have the first one, you just do a duplication and change a few items. Then in your processes and your workflows, you just say, okay, when it comes through this pipeline, I want to use this project generator team A and apply task template payroll team A, and that's going to build this perfectly created and assigned project to team A. And same thing with team B. So, not everyone will need to go to that level, but it's there for you to use in case you need that kind of complexity. On that note, as I alluded to before, remember how we talked about this dynamic assignment based on an identity of project leader here. And in the task templates, you can assign to the project leader. And this is where I would set the project leader, right? So that means that when this generator creates a project and it chooses a task template in which project leader is dynamically assigned to tasks, then it's going to plug in Ron Howard into that task assignment. Okay? This is what we would call a dynamic identity. in the future, we plan to provide you the ability to customize multiple tasks identities. So, for example, if you were an SEO agency or a website agency, say, you could create a custom identity like SEO expert, custom identity, DevOps server guy, custom identity, CSS, front end person, custom identity, back end person, however you need to make them, and use them as dynamic identities in the task templates. And then as you come here into the project generator, you can set for this generator, I want Will to be the SEO expert when this gets used, and I want Ron to be the CSS person, and I want so-and-so to be the other person. And so you can plug actual people into those dynamic identities, and then the task template can be all assigned based on those dynamic identities, and then you're just plugging in real people into those like placeholders. Yeah. Well, it's going to be specific examples are going to be something. So the question here is, okay, so when I create a new staff member, I need to duplicate the generator and assign them as the leader. I have a sales team. After update form, the project is the same for everyone, just trying to have that sales rep member assigned to that new project. Let's hold that question, iPhone. You're only showing to me as iPhone, so I feel like I'm not able to refer to you as by your name, so I'm sorry about that. But let's hold that question for just a little bit, and I'll try to cover it in a little bit if we can drill down to it. Let's go back to the diagram and make sure that we're as covered here as we can be, and then we'll start to go a little bit further. Okay, so is it clear to everyone how the project generator plus the task templates how they're used together to create an end result, individual project with assignments, with tasks, etc.? And the suggestion that I would say, if you're starting, is when you create, if you're looking to create a project generator, I would probably start with, before you start your first project in SweetDash, I would create it as a generator and create a very rough task template with the things you can think of today. Okay, don't wait. Don't sit and agonize over making sure that you have everything built in that task template, and it's some perfect, Eiffel Tower of task templates, right? You should probably just build a pretty rough and tumble project generator, 4, 5, 6 tasks in the task template. Make sure it's like, this is the bare minimum of what I can think of today. Then use that project and template, or that generator and template, to generate that first project that you really are planning to work on in real world. Then work on that project in the real world, but also keep some notes on the side. Keep notes every time you realize, oh, you know what? I didn't think about that. Oh, I should have thought about that. Oh, we need to make adjustments here. Don't do it right away. Just make notes. Keep notes as you work yourself through that project. Then, before you start the next project, go into your generator, go into your task templates, work through your notes, make some adjustments, layer it, level it up, make it better based on your experience with the first time through, and then after you've done that, then use the generator and the task template again to generate the project. You're doing this manually most likely. So now you have another project that's improved, better. It's a better version from automation. Now you work through that, keep your notes, and you work through that system a little bit at a time, maybe 2, 3, 4 projects. You'll have it down to a very good level. Then you can sort of push that into an automation. You can say, okay, I think this is ready. I can use this in an automation and not have to babysit it as much, and it's coming out really, really close to what we can use on a day-to-day basis. So what you've done there is you've used your real-world day-to-day working process to refine your template in a few iterations to the point where, okay, now. And then you might see, oh, okay, I need alternate variations. I need a few different varieties of project generators to handle these different scenarios. And so that would be your next step. Okay, now let's expand. And then in the case of Mr. iPhone, you may have different teams that need to be assigned, or different processes, or maybe every time it's a different team. So there's some variations. The one construction can't cover always every single business model, but it's designed to be as flexible as possible. So there may be a way to make that happen, depending. And again, we plan to bring these custom identities, these dynamic identities in the future that would give you even more flexibility. So that will really help. Really quick, so I want to cover something really quick, and then I'll start taking questions. In a form, okay, let's look in. Yeah, good. Okay, so we have a kickoff form, I think. Yes, good. All right. So in a kickoff form and in an update form, since we're talking about project generators, I think it's important to understand this. We have project custom fields, okay? So we have, you can create project custom fields, and you saw this one. Here's referred by. Okay, so I can add that, and the data is entered if I go to if I want to create a new project. You'll see that custom field is there for population here, referred by. Understand that when a kickoff form gets submitted, we have no idea. We don't have all the information necessarily. In some cases, if we don't know if the person is an unknown target, we've never seen their email address before, we don't know who they are. We are working in an automation, but with some elements not known. So we have to create things from scratch. Typically, we're creating things from scratch. When there's a known target, we have some other options. We already know them a little bit. We can change their role. We can do some things. We can change their circles. We can make changes there. Okay. But if you're using project custom fields, which I believe is more and more is enabled in a more and more robust way every day as we go forward, and this is a project custom field, understand that you have to, in a kickoff form, designate a project generator. And why is that? Because this data on a project custom field needs to be associated with a specific project. But we don't know which project, because this, maybe if it's a known user, and especially if this is an update form, like I want to show you here, your client could have 6 projects. So which one do we put it in? We can't really know. So the way this construction is working now is if there's a project custom field and I try to save this, it will force you to specify on the unknown side a project generator. And this is the project. The project that is the result of this generator will be the place where we place the data from this custom field. In a known target scenario, same thing. We'll create a new project and place the data in the new project that's the result of this generator being used. In an update form, it's a little bit different now. I'm going to see where we are here. Project custom fields. We don't quite have the feature that I'm looking for here, but there will be a way for you to either specify I want it to use as a project generator, or I want to reference a project by its first few characters of the title. Let me just show you what this means. Task template. It looks like this. We already have this implemented in task templates. So if I'm going to, in an automation, apply a task template, and that's another thing to say. Let me say this first. Here we show that I can use a generator and a task template to create projects and tasks. Here I'm discussing that you can manually create a project and specify a task template on creation, and the project and task will be created. But you can also take this task template and you can merge it into an existing project. Okay? So if you have a task template that, a set of tasks that need to be done as a project goes along and introduced into the project at a later date after the project is created and working and underway, you can merge a task template that's purpose built for that and merge it directly into an existing project, and all the tasks and phases that are a part of that will be merged into the project with the relative due dates being based on the date of the merging of the task template into the project. And that looks like, if we go to list of projects, let me go do that. So any project you can see from the list, you can just merge or apply a task template. And then you can, again, you have the option of shifting the based on date if you want. But if you don't specify it, which is not required, it'll be the date that you click that apply button. With that in mind, let's look at I'm sorry, back to the form where I was here. In the form, update forms, you'll have this ability. So in an automation, you have the ability to apply a task template, okay? But when you say, okay, I'm going to apply a task template, basically you're saying I want to merge it into an existing project. We're going to say, okay, which project? Can you tell us? Because we don't know. I mean, we can't read your mind, right? So in this case, we can say, okay, well, I want to apply it to the contact's most recent project. That's one way to say it. And if you build your automation in a certain way, then you can be certain that the project that you probably generated maybe one or two steps up ahead before in the automation, that's going to be the most recent one, because that's your workflow, right? You know for sure, okay, that's the one I want to target. I just built it 2 minutes ago. That's the one. Or this workflow might be more specific. You might need to target a different project based on if your clients are likely to have 4 or 5 projects. You need to really pinpoint which one we need to merge this task template into, or in the case of forms, which one we need to populate the custom field data with. And in that case, you can use this mechanism, which is project title starting with the following. And in this case, you very likely will want to develop some sort of internal coding in your business and say, all right, this is web build, or this is SEO. Yeah, this is all here now, Tracy. Exactly. You can develop a coding that, this is your internal systems, but this allows you to apply your internal systems here. And so now you'll say, okay, I want to do, make sure you apply it to web BLD, which in your world means the web build project, right? And so we'll search all the projects that are assigned to the target of this automation, which is a client, and we'll find the one that matches this, if there is one. If there's not, nothing will happen. But if we find a match, we're going to merge this task template into this project using this based on date if it's different than here, or the moment that this task template, this automation is triggered will be the based on date. The relative due dates will be set, will be applied, and the actual due dates will be zipped out. And there you go. And you can even set the project status. Or when I say set, you can change it, because we're talking about an existing project, right? So imagine that your project is sitting in completed status. And then you have a workflow where your client comes back and requests something, or says, hey, I want to do something a little differently. Then you have an auto template that's set up for that, and you trigger it. And part of that auto template is, okay, put these 5 more tasks from this task template that I have built for this specific purpose into that project. Choose the project by this one of these mechanisms, and then change the project status back to working. Right? And now you've changed it back to working, which now it can go through your processes back to the complete status, or when all the tasks are completed, then it can automatically change the project to complete status, which will then trigger all the automations associated with the project, which can be anything that triggers another set round of automations. All right. Thank you. All right, good. And so this mechanism applied to most recent project and project title is coming soon to update forms and to kickoff forms, in the sense that you will be able to use one of those mechanisms to whatever fits your use case to populate projects in a very targeted way with the data that's submitted in that form. But I just wanted to point out that there is some confusion currently on this, and just explaining why we have to require you to select a project generator, in this case, that you use project custom fields in the form. Because as of now, we don't have this logic moved over into those forms. And so the only way we can know which project is we know which one because it's generated as part of the same action. Yeah. Okay, so I think you guys can see, if you followed me this whole way, congratulations. If everything is making sense, congratulations. And I hope that means that I explained it well enough. But I think you can see that this platform is 100% designed, yes, to be functional, yes, to be useful, but it's 100% designed at all times with automation in mind, to make these mechanisms that are configurable and flexible enough to apply to your business, his business, their business, everybody's business, in a way you can customize it, and you can move the Legos around however works for you, and you can build pre-configured elements, specifically in this case projects and task templates, that have the ability to take what was a very, very complex set of admin tasks that really could typically, in most businesses, I think these creating a project and assigning tasks and building out tasks inside a project, that's a high level admin task. Typically an owner or a high level manager, somebody that really knows their stuff. You can't give that to a lower level employee as good as they are. So what this lets this high level admin person do is build these things in a canned way, in a pre-configured way, so that resource heavy task becomes something that's automated, and something that used to maybe take days. I mean, I think we could all agree it could take days to build out and properly configure and build projects with the tasks and the descriptions and the assignments and the due dates and all these things. Could take an hour. It took 6 hours. Let's just say 8 hours. Okay, so it takes 8 hours to build out a really robust project. Well, you could do it in, say it takes 16 hours to really concentrate and do it in the generator template model, or 3 or 4 iterations, as we talked about before, of real world application. But after that, then you're in tall cotton, as they say around here. That's the good stuff, because this is happening in milliseconds based on some single click or an automation that you didn't even see happen. And suddenly everything is rolling. All right. I think that pretty well sums up project generators, task templates, their use case, where you build them, how you build them, relative due dates, based on dates, all the rest of it that we covered here. Thanks, everyone. I hope you found that helpful. See you in the next one. Bye.